The sound of her laughter stopped me cold in the hallway. "He's such a clueless ATM." Jenna's voice drifted through the cracked door of our guest bedroom. "He actually thinks you're job hunting while I'm at yoga." Dave's low chuckle joined hers. "Well, we are working on our downward dog." More laughter. "God, his pathetic trust makes it too easy," my wife continued. "When do you think we should drop the bomb?" "After I get him to sign over the lake house." "No rush," Dave replied. "Let's milk this setup a little longer. After all, it's his money paying for our good time." My fingers went numb against the door frame. 15 years of marriage crystallized into this moment of perfect clarity. I was the fool in their private joke, the mark in their long con. The foundation of my life had just crumbled beneath my feet. I didn't make a sound. I didn't burst through the door. Instead, something hardened inside me as I silently retreated down the hallway, a plan already forming in my mind. They wanted to destroy me. I would make them wish they'd never tried. My name is Thomas Winters. Tom to most, Babe to the woman currently betraying me in our guest bedroom. I'm 45 years old, a partner at Winters and Young Architectural Firm, a business I built from nothing after graduating with honors from Cornell. I design spaces that will outlast me. I create foundations that endure. Or so I thought. Jenna and I met at a charity gala 12 years ago. She was breathtaking, tall, confident, with honey blonde hair and a smile that lit up the room. An interior designer with ambition and charm. When we married 3 years later, I thought I'd found my perfect complement. We bought a sprawling colonial in Oakwood Heights, filled it with custom furniture, planned for children who never came, and built what I believed was an unshakable life together. Dave Mercer had been my friend since we were 10, racing bikes down suburban streets and dreaming of future glory. We'd drifted apart during college. He dropped out to find himself, but reconnected in our 30s. He'd never quite achieved the stability I had, bouncing between sales jobs, always chasing the next big commission. Still, when he showed up at our door 6 months ago, his marriage collapsed and eviction notice in hand, I didn't hesitate. "Stay as long as you need," I told him, ignoring Jenna's tight smile. "What are friends for?" I gave him the guest room, introduced him to contacts, even paid for his new wardrobe for interviews. He was family after all, the brother I never had. Jenna eventually warmed to the idea, volunteering to help him organize his resume and taking him to networking events. How terribly helpful my wife had become. The signs had been there all along. The slightly too long hugs, the inside jokes, the way conversation stopped when I entered a room. Jenna's sudden disinterest in our bedroom. I'd been blind, focusing on work, believing in loyalty, believing in her, trusting. Pathetic indeed. The betrayal had a timeline, I realized as I reviewed the past months. Little moments of disrespect accumulated like toxic waste. 3 months ago, Jenna stopped asking about my day. Her customary kiss when I came home disappeared, replaced by vague acknowledgments from whatever room she occupied, usually wherever Dave was. 2 months ago, my favorite scotch began disappearing faster than I could drink it. Dave's apologies were effusive. "I'll replace it, buddy. Promise." He never did. 6 weeks ago, I found them poring over our financial statements at the kitchen table. "Just helping Dave understand investment strategies," Jenna explained, sliding the papers away. Why had my private financial documents been out in the first place? 4 weeks ago, Jenna suggested I update my will and life insurance. "It's just responsible planning," she insisted, recommending I make her the sole beneficiary to simplify things. 2 weeks ago, I came home early with a migraine to find the house empty, though both their cars were in the driveway. They returned an hour later, flushed and laughing, with a weak excuse about checking out the new walking trail behind our property. 1 week ago, Dave mentioned casually how my firm would probably buy out my share if anything happened, asking probing questions about my partnership agreement. Yesterday, I overheard them discussing my heart condition with concern. I don't have a heart condition. Each memory burned through me now, illuminating what I'd been too trusting to see. The timeline wasn't just betrayal, it was calculation. They weren't just having an affair. They were constructing my replacement, my erasure, my end. I dug deeper, checked our accounts, found unexplained withdrawals, looked through Jenna's email while she slept, discovered inquiries to divorce attorneys, located a lease application for an apartment in both their names. They weren't just sleeping together. They were planning a future funded by my destruction. I became a ghost in my own home, watching, listening, gathering evidence. I installed microscopic cameras in common areas, legally documenting their conversations. I placed voice-activated recorders where they thought they were safe. I forwarded emails, photographed documents, built my case methodically. Each day, I played the oblivious husband. I smiled at breakfast, asked Dave about his job search, kissed Jenna's cheek when she flinched away. I feigned ignorance while documenting every betrayal. "You seem distracted," Jenna commented one evening, studying my face for signs of suspicion. I smiled. "Just a big project at work. Nothing to worry about." She believed me. They both did. Their contempt had made me invisible, and invisibility became my weapon. The breaking point came exactly 2 weeks after I'd overheard them in the guest room. I was having dinner with a client when my phone buzzed with a security alert. The cameras caught them in our bedroom, our bed, their expressions hungry and mocking as they defiled the space I'd once shared with my wife. But it wasn't their physical betrayal that broke me. It was what came after. "I can't wait until this is all ours," Dave said, gesturing to the bedroom. "Once we get the retirement accounts and the firm buys him out, we'll be set." Jenna laughed. "He thinks I'm planning our anniversary dinner next week. Little does he know I'll be serving him divorce papers instead. The look on his face will be priceless." "Don't worry about him fighting back," Dave added. "I've been moving his things for weeks. Those antique watches, the baseball signed by Jeter, all gone. We'll say he's unstable if he makes trouble." I switched off my phone, excused myself from dinner, and drove to an empty parking lot where I screamed until my voice gave out. Then a strange calm settled over me. I knew what I had to do. They wanted war. I would give them annihilation. I had 7 days until our anniversary dinner, the event Jenna was planning as my public humiliation. 7 days to orchestrate their downfall. First, I secured my assets. I visited my attorney and initiated protective measures for the business. I transferred funds from joint accounts to new ones they couldn't access. I documented everything they'd stolen, cataloging each item with photographs and valuations. Next, I met with a divorce attorney known for handling high-conflict cases. I brought my evidence, recordings, financial documents, proof of theft, evidence of their conspiracy. The attorney's eyes widened as he reviewed the material. "They've made a serious mistake," he said grimly. "This isn't just infidelity. This is calculated financial fraud and conspiracy." I had him prepare divorce papers with terms that would leave Jenna with nothing beyond what she'd brought to the marriage. The prenuptial agreement she'd signed years ago had infidelity clauses she'd conveniently forgotten. Then I contacted our circle of friends and family, not to expose the affair, but to ensure they would attend the anniversary dinner. "It's our 15th, I explained. "I want to make it special." Everyone accepted. I spoke with the restaurant manager about my special presentation, a slideshow of our years together, paid extra for the private room and technical setup, left nothing to chance. For Dave, I prepared a separate reckoning. I contacted every business connection I'd introduced him to, every potential employer, every networking contact. "Just checking in," I said casually. "Keep me posted on any interactions with Dave Mercer. There's something you should know before proceeding." I called in a favor from a friend in law enforcement to place Dave under informal observation. Concerned about some missing items, I explained. Just want to make sure they don't disappear permanently. Finally, I moved anything of true personal value, photographs, heirlooms, irreplaceable memories, to a secure storage unit. What remained in the house would be collateral damage in the coming explosion. All the while, I maintained my role: distracted husband, generous friend, clueless ATM. The night before our anniversary, I found Jenna reviewing documents in her home office. She quickly put them away when I entered. "Looking forward to tomorrow night," I said with a practiced smile. "Me too," she replied, her eyes calculating. "It's going to be unforgettable." On that point, at least, we agreed. The evening of our anniversary arrived with perfect clarity. I dressed carefully in my best suit, the one Jenna had always said made me look distinguished. When she emerged in a red dress I'd never seen before, I complimented her sincerely. She was beautiful. She had always been beautiful. It made what was to come both harder and absolutely necessary. Dave made himself scarce, claiming a job interview. "I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow," he said with a wink to Jenna. "Celebrate properly." We drove separately to Le Chateau, the most exclusive restaurant in the city. "I have some errands after dinner," Jenna explained, clutching her oversized purse, the one undoubtedly containing divorce papers and whatever script she'd prepared for my humiliation. The private room was perfect. 30 of our closest friends and family members, colleagues from my firm, even Jenna's parents who had flown in as a surprise. The shock on Jenna's face when she saw them was the first genuine reaction I'd seen from her in months. "What are they doing here?" she hissed. "I invited everyone important to us," I replied calmly, "for our special night." Dinner proceeded with excruciating normalcy. Cocktails, appetizers, main courses. Jenna grew increasingly tense, her eyes darting to her purse, then to the door, clearly recalculating her plan. I maintained pleasant conversation, toasted our years together, played the devoted husband with Oscar-worthy precision. As dessert was served, I stood and tapped my glass with a spoon. The room quieted. "Thank you all for coming tonight," I began. 15 years is a significant milestone, and I wanted to mark it properly, surrounded by those who've been part of our journey. Jenna's smile was fixed, her fingers white around her wine glass. "I've prepared a little presentation," I continued. "A look back at our years together and perhaps a glimpse of what's been happening recently." I nodded to the waiter who dimmed the lights. The projector hummed to life, displaying a montage of our wedding photos. Jenna visibly relaxed, thinking this was a sentimental tribute. Then the images shifted. Crystal clear footage from my hidden cameras, Jenna and Dave entering our bedroom, their explicit mockery of me, their detailed discussions of how to take my money, my home, my dignity. Their conspiracy laid bare in their own words and actions. "He's such a clueless ATM. His pathetic trust makes it too easy. Once we get the retirement accounts and the firm buys him out, we'll be set." Gasps filled the room. Someone dropped a glass. Jenna's mother gave a strangled cry. Jenna lurched to her feet. "Turn it off!" This isn't. Tom, what are you doing?" I kept my voice steady. "Showing everyone exactly who you are." The footage continued. Dave describing how he'd been stealing my possessions. Jenna laughing about serving me divorce papers at this very dinner. Their explicit betrayal playing out before every person who mattered in our lives. When the screen finally went dark, the silence was absolute. Then came the whispers, the horrified looks, the judgment raining down on the woman who had planned to destroy me. "I believe you had something to serve me tonight," I said quietly, reaching into my jacket. "Let me save you the trouble." I placed my own divorce papers on the table before her. "Your belongings have been packed," I continued conversationally. "They're in storage unit 415 at Citywide Storage. The code is 1508. Your name has been removed from our accounts, as permitted by our prenuptial agreement in cases of infidelity. The lease application you submitted with Dave has been denied. I spoke with the property manager. Oh, and the lock codes to our house have been changed." Her face had gone from red to white, eyes wide with shock as her careful plans imploded before her. "You might want to call Dave," I added. "He's currently being interviewed by police about the missing items from our home. Apparently, someone reported seeing him with my grandfather's watch at a pawn shop on 5th Street. I turned to address our stunned audience. "I apologize for the unconventional entertainment tonight. Dinner has been paid for. Please enjoy the rest of your evening." As I walked toward the door, Jenna's father, a man who had welcomed me into their family, caught my arm. "Tom," he said hoarsely, "we had no idea." "Neither did I replied. "But now we all do." I left Jenna surrounded by the wreckage of her reputation, facing questions she could never answer, her careful facade shattered beyond repair. Outside in the cool night air, I finally took my first free breath in months. One part of my plan was complete, but Dave's reckoning wasn't finished yet. The week that followed was a hurricane of consequences. Jenna tried calling me 67 times before giving up. Her social media went dark after friends flooded her pages with condemnation. Her design clients, many from my business connections, quietly terminated their contracts. Her parents, shamed beyond words, returned home without seeing her again. She made one attempt to enter our house, only to be turned away by the security company I'd hired. My lawyer called with updates. Her counterclaims were being dismissed one by one. The evidence was too overwhelming, her conspiracy too well documented. She would receive nothing beyond her personal property and a small settlement I offered out of lingering decency, not for her, but for the memory of what I'd once thought we had. Dave's unraveling was more spectacular. The police found several of my missing items in his storage unit, along with property from 3 other homes where he'd stayed before ours. His previous bad luck suddenly looked more like a pattern of predatory behavior. Charges were filed, employment prospects vanished. The network that had once welcomed him as my friend now slammed doors in his face. He avoided jail only because I didn't press for maximum charges. I wanted him free for what came next. 7 days after the anniversary dinner, I received a text from an investigator I'd hired to track Dave's movements. Subject at Rusty Nail Bar, appeared intoxicated, likely to remain until closing. I drove there without hesitation, parking in the shadowed lot behind the building. At 2 a.m., the bar emptied its last patrons. Dave stumbled out alone, unshaven, wearing the same clothes I'd seen him in days earlier. He weaved through the parking lot toward the far corner, where his car, the last possession he hadn't yet sold, waited. I followed silently, keeping to the shadows. When he reached the darkest section of the lot, I called his name. He turned, squinting. Recognition dawned slowly on his face, followed by fear. "Tom?" "Look, man, I can explain." I didn't let him finish. 15 years of trust channeled into my right fist as it connected with his jaw. He sprawled backward, too drunk to defend himself, too surprised to call for help. "You were my friend," I said, my voice terrifyingly calm even to my own ears. "You were family." His attempts to crawl away were pathetic. I grabbed him by his shirt collar, hauled him up, and slammed him against the brick wall. "I gave you everything," I continued. "A home, opportunities, trust." Each word was punctuated by another blow, to his ribs, his stomach, his face. Years of weight training gave my strikes devastating efficiency. I wasn't wild or uncontrolled. Each hit was measured, placed exactly where I wanted it. Dave slid down the wall, blood streaming from his nose, eyes swelling shut. "Please," he whimpered, "you've already ruined me. What more do you want?" I knelt beside him, grabbed a handful of his hair, and pulled his face close to mine. "I want you to remember something," I whispered. "Every time you look in the mirror, Every time you apply for a job and get rejected. Every time you try to build a new life and find all doors closed. Remember that you did this to yourself. You chose this ending. I released him with a shove, watching dispassionately as he curled into a ball on the dirty asphalt. That was for everything, I said, standing up. Consider your debt paid. I walked away, leaving him broken but alive. Death would have been too quick, too clean. This way, he would live with his failure, his betrayal, his consequences. Every day a reminder of what he'd lost. 3 months have passed since that night in the parking lot. The divorce was finalized last week. Jenna received exactly what my attorney had initially offered. No more, no less. I hear she's living in a studio apartment across town, working retail after her design business collapsed. Former friends cross the street to avoid her. The woman who once commanded any room now scurries through life like a shadow, unseen, unwelcome. Dave left town shortly after our encounter, reportedly heading west with whatever he could fit in his car. His LinkedIn profile lists him as self-employed, that catch-all term for unemployment. Whatever schemes he attempts next will be hampered by the references and background checks that now follow him like faithful hounds. As for me, I sold our house. Too many memories contaminated the space. Bought a sleek, modern penthouse downtown, closer to my firm. Our business is expanding, ironically boosted by the publicity that followed the divorce. Turns out clients appreciate working with someone known for precision and ruthless attention to detail. I've declined the sympathetic setups from well-meaning friends. Dating holds no appeal yet. Perhaps someday. For now, I'm rediscovering who I am without the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. Some nights, I stand on my balcony overlooking the city lights, drinking scotch that no one steals, and I feel something like peace. Not happiness. That's still a distant country I can barely make out on the horizon. But the rage has cooled. The mission is complete. The accounts are settled. Yesterday, I received a letter forwarded through my attorney. Jenna's handwriting, once so familiar. I considered burning it unread, but curiosity won out. I know no apology can ever be enough, she wrote. But I want you to know that I understand now what I destroyed. Not just our marriage, but the best man I've ever known. I will regret that until my dying day. I read it once, then fed it into the shredder. Her regrets are no longer my concern. People ask if I have forgiven them. That's the wrong question. Forgiveness implies an ongoing connection, an emotional investment. What I feel is simpler. Indifference. They no longer matter enough to hate. The friend who stayed too long is gone. The wife who betrayed me is erased. And I am still standing, rebuilding my life on foundations they couldn't destroy. Integrity, self-respect, and the cold comfort of justice served exactly as deserved. Some say revenge is a dish best served cold. I disagree. The best revenge is served precisely at the temperature required to inflict maximum damage. And then you walk away, never looking back at the ashes. I sleep well now, alone, but at peace. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.